Okay, so what I wanted to do was look at module 4 and just kind of go over and see if there are any questions on the requirements or how our fourth project is going to work. The fourth project is a personal design project. And if we look here at our learning plan / instructions, you're going to notice there is a document in here. Now it's in Word document form and it's also in PDF. Same thing in both places. I'm going to click on the PDF, but this is where I'm not giving you a project for this last one. You get to pick it. Okay. Now it says here that can be a new design, never done before, or you can reverse engineer something, and it can be a small assembly or it can be an individual part. Probably a small assembly will help you to gain more points, a variety of points as opposed to a single part, but I'll leave that up to you. What I want you to do when you're looking at this and you're determining what kind of a project you're going to do, I want you to think about you're in the last 2 weeks of the term, and I don't know what your workload is outside of this class. So although it is fun to do, a really complex, big project and have that satisfaction, I want you to realistically think about how many hours you can give to this in terms of, how much you're going to do then. Does that make sense? Because you may have other courses where you've got finals that are coming up or final projects. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what you've got going on. You also probably have other outside things going on like work and family. So just have that in mind as you're looking at building your grade here. Now, if we go to the very end, your grade is going to be out of, and I think I'm going to change this wording. I think I said this last time too, not a minimum of 150 points. It's out of 150 points. So now what you get to do is you get to build your grade, and whatever you earn is going to be over or out of 150. If you earn 170, then you got more than 100%. If you earn 120, then it's just going to be your grade out of that. So, so just know that you get to pick how far you want to go here. So I wanted to just kind of go over this handout again. Now, number one, you're going to be using this handout either in the Word format or in the PDF format to devise your plan or critique whatever you're deciding to do. So the first part is looking at features, and I'm looking at a variety of different features. So it counts once. So you're going to have multiple extrudes, okay? But when you include an extrude, it's counted once as I did an extrude, okay? And that's worth 10 points. Then you're going to notice that you have revolve, sweep, blend, or swept blend, and then sheet metal. There are other features out there. I just didn't list every single one. We did a shell, was mentioned earlier. If you want to do a pattern, that's okay. Not a mirror. Mirror to me is a little easy, but a pattern, if you want to pattern something, there's something to patterning. I mean, you got to go around an axis, you got to identify that, so I'm okay with that. So if there is anything outside of this list that you find as what you believe is a feature, like on that feature ribbon, modeling ribbon, and you're going to explore that, even if we didn't go over it, that's totally fine. I can count that, okay? You would just add it here. So you can have as many as 60 points gained in this area, at least 30. So at least 3 different types and as many as 6. Now, if you do more than 6, it just means that it's not going to add towards your points, okay? Because I don't want it to be where we're just, getting 150 points in just modeling, okay? The next one is the number of part models that you have. So these are the individual parts. So if you are doing a small assembly, you can count as many as 5 individual parts as the total models. Now, those models may include a variety of different features, but as many as 5. Yes.
What if you have multiple of one part?
If you have multiple of one part, it counts as one part. Oh, right. That counts as one part because you modeled it once. Okay. Yeah. So the question was, what about multiple parts like in an assembly? If you only model it once, it's only counted here as a part model. Yeah. Or, individual part number, if you would. Does that make sense? And then as far as assembly models, you can have an overall assembly, and then you might have a sub-assembly or 2. So I would count an overall assembly and 1 sub-assembly for as many as 20 points here. Okay. If you only have 1 assembly, that's okay. You don't have to do a sub-assembly. Okay. Sometimes it just seems to lend itself well, and other times it may not. Then if you choose to do detailed drawings, okay, each one of the detailed drawings here, as many as 5, will count towards. Now, remember, points will be deducted for not applying the ANSI standards, the dimensioning standards. So even if you just, put it together, but you aren't really thinking about good dimensioning, then points would be deducted from that, okay? An assembly drawing, same thing, and or one assembly. If you want to do an animation, that's going to be worth 10 points. And then I have 30 points for 3D printing. Okay. We have Creality CR10s, and the build size, or the build plate size that you can use, is going to be 8.5 by 8.5. That's going to be the square at the bottom, if you would. And you can go as high as 10 inches. Be careful with the envelope, because sometimes if you push the envelope, it can be kind of, sometimes you can get into problems, but that's the size that we have. Yes.
Large flat surfaces will probably work.
Good point. Yeah. So if you have really large flat surfaces, Christian said, they could potentially work. I also want you to know this. Number one, and we're going to talk on Thursday more about the 3D printing. I want you guys to focus on number one, figuring out what project you want to do, what are the elements that you want to plan for, and get started modeling. I think that's going to be enough for today. On Thursday, we're going to be talking more in depth about 3D printing, and I'm going to be talking about maybe some features you want to design in. We're going to look at Creality Print as far as the software that we use here to create what we call our G code to send to be printed. But I also want to let you know that the 3D print here is to get you the experience of sending parts to the 3D printer. If your parts don't work or don't exactly print the way you want them to the first time you print, what I need to do is get through everybody who wants to print first at least once, and then we can do additional prints. If in the event we run out of time next week, I think just about every one of you has me next term in kinematics, okay? We are going to be in, I forget which one of these rooms, but we're still going to have the lab available to us, and we'll have plenty of time. So if you did want to do additional changes to your models, and you want to, try to get them to work the way you want them to, you can still have that time to do that. There won't be any penalties for not getting them to functionally work at the end of like a one-time print. Does that make sense? I'm more interested in you learning the process of 3D printing, and then going from there to kind of change the design to work as you would want it to. Okay. So Thursday, I'm going to talk about features to design in for 3D printing. Mostly, you don't want to have overhung surfaces where you wouldn't have support down below. The printers that we have, technically they have support that you can build into them, but it's not great. If you can add radiuses or add angles so that you don't have to support something, you're going to, be happier with the prints. Christian.
We could switch to Orca slicer, and it would print over probably.
Maybe. Christian has he is our 3D printing guru, and there is an Orca slicer rather than Creality Print. We went with the Creality Print because it's what came with our printers, and it's, just kind of on the network, and it's there. There are other slicers out there, and maybe we will lean on Christian to help us with that as we get closer. So if there are some limitations that we're running into with designs, maybe we would do them on a different slicer. It did go very well, Christian. Well, but do you want to be here for every class, for every print?
No, I teach you how to.
You could teach me how to do it. I know. So we do have options when it comes to that. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that 3D print, if you need a couple different iterations through that process and we run out of time in our class, you will have next term, to continue if you so choose. You don't have to, but I know some people are like, I want to get it to work, or I wanted it to do this or that. And I understand that. So don't think that that's the end of the line. And again, you won't be penalized if it doesn't work completely. It's more about going through the process and understanding how to. Okay. So with that, this is your project plan. You're going to, what I would probably imagine is, if you go to the project plan graded assignment number 4, which is the top one right here, This is going to be what you want to focus on first. Again, there's either the, you can pull up the Word document, so you can download the Word document, open this up in Word, and you can literally put an X or a check or something in each one of those places. Or you can do the PDF, you can print that off, or I can print it off for you here, and you can physically check it off and then upload it, scan and upload it. I do want you to add a sketch or a description of what you're going to be doing. Or if you happen to be in the room here, I can look at it. Okay. But I do want more than just your checklist. I'd like to know, you know, what you're planning on doing. Okay. This is worth 10 points or 20 points. That's your project plan. So everybody has to do that. And I want you to get my approval before you go forward. I don't want it to be something and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's really doesn't seem to apply. I don't want you to be, you know, investing time in something that may not be applicable. I can't think of anything that's not applicable, but I don't know. Go ahead.
We just show you the sheet that you know.
You can show me the sheet that you handed out. Yes, 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 that's fine. But you know what, Christian, I do want that uploaded somehow. And I'll tell you why. That way when, yeah, you can create a PDF or you can just create or do the Word document and just upload that. And the reason I do want at least this, that's my record then when I'm going through and I'm grading, just to kind of see like, how did it compare? No points off if you, for instance, and this is something somebody asked this earlier. I would suggest that you plan for more points than what you anticipate doing, only because then at the end you have some opportunity to maybe change things up. So if you deviate from your original plan, that's okay. All right. It's not a big deal. So for instance, if you planned, you know, maybe plan 60, but for 60 points here for features, but you end up with 50, that's okay. Okay. So that's not going to hurt you. It's not like you have to do exactly that, but it's your best, you know, best guess, if you would, of how you're going to do it. Then the other part here, this is going to be the graded part. This is my manual. So it says on here, nothing to submit here. All right. So don't worry about that. That's really just a placeholder for me to put my grade in. And then these are the ones where you're going to, I indented them one more time. These are the ones where, depending on how you know, what areas you choose, you're going to upload to the models, the assemblies, details, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go. So even if we plan to do more than 150, we still get graded out of 150. Correct. So let's say you do 170 points. You'll have 170 points. You'll just have a higher percentage. You'll have 100 and some percent for this assignment. That's totally fine. Or some of you, if you're coming into this with a really high score and you kind of play with that a little bit and say, all right, maybe I'm not going to go for 150, but if I do 120, that's enough points for me to get the grade that I want. Does that make sense? And that's where I want you to strategically not back yourself into a corner, because you are the only person who knows what your next 2 weeks look like. Okay. I don't want anybody freaking out or getting stressed out because you have too big of a project that you decided to do at this point. Does that make sense? I'm not discouraging you from being, you know, ambitious, but I want you to be realistic about the time that you have available. Okay. Also, think about parts that you would want to pull off, you know, again, kind of pad the points that you need so that in the event, for instance, you get to the end and you're like, I'm not going to get it 3D printed, but what I could do instead is maybe do 3 detailed drawings. Okay. If you need to do that, those are decisions you can make at the end, but does that make sense? Does that help you? I want it to be as flexible as possible, but I want it to be something you enjoy doing. I want it to be something that I'm not just handing you and telling you what to do anymore. Okay. I know there'll be questions as you jump in. Okay. And I expect that. So today, like I said, project plan, modeling, kind of getting that going. And then on Thursday, we'll kind of get into the 3D printing things, you know, if you're interested in that. Okay. And we'll get those recorded. So with that, that's all that I have. Are there other questions that you guys virtually or in the room have in regard to getting started? I'm seeing nothing. Okay. So then, yeah, the rest of the time here, this is going to be yours. Besides, next week or on Thursday, when we talk about 3D printing, that's how these sessions are going to go. Okay. That's really just going to be you working independently, and I'll be here to support you as needed. Okay. Okie dokie. I'll stop the recording.